Okay, today we're going to learn how to make coil pots. I've got a couple of balls of clay already wedged up here. Now, coil pots are deceptively easy and hard at the same time. Now, to roll a coil, all I do is take my wedged clay and I'm going to pinch off about as much to fill in my hand like that. Then I'm going to put it down here on the table, and when you roll, a lot of people just roll like this, and if you do that, you're going to get flat spots. So you want to go from the tip of your finger to the heel of your hand. And you start rolling back and forth. And then as it gets longer, then you spread your fingers out. And if you notice, if it starts to get oblong like that, you just stop, push it down a little bit. And I'm trying to go slow, but it's really difficult. Push down. As it gets longer, I open my fingers up. I feel for the high spots as I go back and forth, and I push down on the high spots. And what I'm going for is a coil about the circumference of my little finger. Just about like that. Now, I have found it easier when I start my coil pots to start them on a paper towel. So I put the coil down, just gonna bring it around like this. Until I get it to be about the circumference I want on the bottom of my pot. Now, I like my pot a little bigger round on the bottom, so I'm going to pinch off another handful of clay, squeeze it into a tube, put it down, and again, the same rolling process. If it gets oblong, I just put it up on end like this, push down, and if you go from your fingers to your heels, you're not going to have that oblong problem. I spread my fingers out as it gets longer, feeling for the high spots. Now, I'm going to take, I start this coil right where I left the last one off. About the only thing you don't want to do is have your seams line up together. So this is about how big I want the bottom of my project to be. Now, to get this to stick together, I'm going to pull the clay, and if you notice how far my thumb goes down, pull the clay in, and then I can pull the clay out, and I'm just smoothing these together. That's what's going to hold it together and keep water in my vase or whatever. This technique is about 5,000 years old or older that you're seeing and you will be doing. Just smooth it all the way down, all the way around. You can pull out, you can pull in. You just want to get it smooth, sealed together. Now, some people will start their coil pots on a slab. The reason I like to do it on the paper towel is this is going to be the bottom of my project, which is kind of neat. Now, next I'm going to start going up. Again, pinch off a tube of clay. Going to roll about the same size coil, pinch it up. Going to start. And again, tip of your finger to the heel of your hand to roll it out. As it gets longer, you spread your fingers. You're going for something about the circumference of your little finger. Now again, if you were building a much bigger piece, you could use bigger coils. But we're just making a nice little face here. Now, here is where I need to start making my design decisions. If I want the coils to go straight up, then I'm going to put the coil directly on the coil below it as I come around. Then I have the choice of either just looping this coil up on top of here, and then that seam will change all the way around. Or I can take and cut, which is what I'm going to do, my coils. I'm going to have a seam like this. If I want them on the outside, because I want this to flare out just a little bit as it goes around, then I'm just going to roll it out just a little bit. Okay? And now my vase is going to flare out just a little bit as it comes up. So, I need to pinch off more clay, about the size it'll fit in my hand. Squeeze it into a tube, put it down. I'm going to repeat the rolling process. Feeling for the high spots. Then I'm not going to start my seam in the same place because I want my pot to be really strong. So I usually come over here. If this is at 12 o'clock, I go to 3, then 6, then 9. And I'm just going to lay it just a little bit on the outside because I want it to flare out. If I wanted it to flare in, which I'll probably do later, you just put the coil on the inside. We're going to go on the outside just a little bit. Bring it around. Overlap it. Cut it. Oopsie. Put those together. Just a little bit. Now, what I usually suggest is go up 2 or 3 coils before you start smoothing either the inside, the outside, or both. Now, I'm going to want the decoration on the outside to be my coils. So I'm going to smooth on the inside. Again, as it gets longer, I feel for the high spots. I want to shoot for the circumference of my little finger. I'm going to start 9 o'clock. Just laying it on the outside a little bit. Then I'm going to cut down so these guys go together. Now, to keep my coil pot together, I'm going to put my hand on the outside because I don't want it to go out. Take my thumb and I'm going to just pull down on the inside. Just work my whole way around. This is going to keep your project from falling apart. It's also going to make it so it'll hold liquid, like if you're making a vase, a flower vase, or a pasta bowl. And again, I'm reaching in, pulling down about a quarter or a third of the coil. Then I'm going to start, and then I come in here, and I start smoothing and working this together. And that's how we start our coil project. Okay, now we're going to take a look at how to decorate our our coil pots. Now, I'm going to use the coils as my decoration. So there's something I can do called making a pinwheel. And I'm going to take, again, pinch off about as much as will fit in your hand, squeeze it into a tube, Then I'm going to roll, just like I did, a coil about the circumference of my little finger. But this time, rather than putting it on top of my pot, I always tell people go up 2 or 3 coils before you start your decoration. We're going to make what's called a pinwheel. Now I've got my coil, and all I'm going to do is start rolling it from one end. And I don't want it going a lot farther. So I'm going to cut my coil here, and I'm going to put this pinwheel right here. Now it'll sit there for just a minute while I make the rest of the decorations. You don't always have to make your pinwheels circles. Pinch, squeeze it into a tube, start rolling. This part really never changes. You'll get really good at this. Feel for the high spot as I'm rolling it out. What I'm going to do this time is fold it over. And I'm going to make it into a square shape. I'm going to cut it off. And this guy, I'm going to take and put him right here beside. Now, if you notice, there's a little triangle there. So what you can do, a little triangle, you roll a ball of clay. Oopsie. Take it from the back. This way. And I'm going to take and push it in there because I want this to be watertight. So I push that in like that. Now, I'm going to take and make one more coil. Now I'm going to make another square. But I want him to be a little bit on the smaller side. So we're going to stop him right there. And we're going to put him right here. Just kind of squeeze them together. Okay, now if you notice, the tail of one square and the tail of the other square are coming towards the circle. So you want to kind of think, this is your design, so you want to kind of think of how you're going to do it. Then I roll a little ball of clay, tuck it right in there from the back side to kind of fill that gap. Now I haven't smoothed anything yet because I'm still working on my design. Now, we're going to have to get our other ball of clay out. This next one, I'm going to use a ball as a decorative element. So I take a plug of clay that's already pre-wedged. I'm rolling it into a ball. Then what I'm going to do is cut it in half. And I'm going to use this as one of my decorative elements. That's a little thick. I'm going to trim this down just a little bit. Okay. Then with this guy, yeah, it'll work. I'm going to take it, cut him like that. Put these little guys on each side. Okay, here's kind of what it looks like on the inside. Now, what I can do for strength is I'm going to put these coils in here, just like that. These are the off ends of the coils I rolled earlier. Okay. And this one I'm going to have go over like that. So there's the outside. Here's the inside. Now nothing's down yet. So to get all this to stay in one place, I'm going to take my hands on the outside to brace as I come in here, and I'm going to start pulling the clay down with my hand on the outside. Then I'm going to pull from side to side too. Smooth all this in. And you can pull up as well as go down. Side to side, and then down and up, back and forth, smoothing it together. My hand's on the outside so it doesn't get pushed out of shape. Start pulling these guys across like this. Same here. I'm going to go down. I'm also going to go this way, pull up, down, working my way towards the ball, and oopsie, you go back. And then pulling this down here, pulling this across, just smoothing this all together. Now I have seen people use a wooden rib to do this, and you're more than welcome to do that. I just find my thumb works a whole lot better. All right, and got my decorative elements. I just go in, make sure everything gets smoothed out. There we go. So I've got my decorative elements on the outside. I've got the smooth inside, and I've got some decorative elements to the outside of my pot. Now, the next step is I'm going to fill in some coils here, and then I'm going to start taking coils all the way around it. And we'll come back when I get to that spot. Okay, we're kind of doing a mid-pot check-in. Now, if you notice the decorative elements, what I started doing was just putting coils over them to kind of bind it all in. If there was a triangle hole, I just rolled a little ball of clay, put it in the back, just kept going around, and then I started going up with my coils, and then also started bringing my coils in. Now, I'm starting to think about how I'm going to finish my piece. These are all kind of slanting in just a little bit. Now I'm going to do something, sometimes empty space can be a decoration. So if you notice, I started with these two little spirals out, and then my coils are meeting farther in front, and I'm going to continue that gap as I bring my pot up and in. So we'll kind of see this gap as part of the decoration. Okay, and then we'll come back when we're done and take a look at it. Okay, here we are. I finished my pot. If you notice, I continued my design of opening up a gap around. I also started laying my coils on the outside so I could flare the lip out on my pot a little bit. And I have my decorative elements that I started with down here. Now I could have brought those up through the top. I've seen kids bring them up diagonally. Not everyone's got an opening like this in their piece. It's all up to you how you use these visual elements. I've also had kids do single and double braids and put in their designs. So really, the only limit is your imagination of how you do this. But that is essentially how you make a coil pot. Then from here, I take it, I build it on a piece of paper towel so that I can take it, bring it over here, and put it on the drying rack. And let it dry for a few days. Remember, it has to be up there for 2 weekends and the week in the middle before we can put it in the kiln. And that's how you put a coil pot together.